Superintendent Stanley, at the press conference when they announced your hiring, you said the buck stops with you. But there are two of you. So how are you two going to work through tough issues of culture change and accountability?
Well, ma'am, it's communication. It's all about the department. We're all part of the same team, even though we have different functions. The buck stops on the top end, but we both have individual responsibilities that we're accountable for. But at the end of the day, in order to reach that goal, Chief Medina and I have to communicate with other people of his staff. But it's all about the same team effort. And I think great communication goes a long ways. And it's only been the first week, but I have no complaints about the communication with all the DCs as well as the chief. Everybody has been more than helpful and giving me a helping hand trying to hit the ground running.
Chief Medina, the ACLU said it was disappointed with your hiring, but because you come right out of the culture that has promoted this systemic inability to hold officers accountable. Is that fair?
No, it's not fair. Because I think if you look at what everybody asked for, is they asked for a transformational leader. And if you look at the very definition of that, that means somebody who has changed and can never change back. So by that very definition, I've been very open about the fact that the best experience for my career was leaving the Albuquerque Police Department in 2014, going to the tribal community of Laguna, learning what I did beyond what I could have ever learned at a police department, because I had my hands so much in the lowest levels of the department because it was smaller, but with the responsibility from the top that I had never experienced in Albuquerque. And learning to work and understand culture and the conflicts between culture and law enforcement and how that creates friction is going to be the key to moving forward. And the one thing I do compliment the ACLU about saying is they didn't say that they had a personal issue with Harold Medina, the person. They had an issue with the fact that I had come up through the system. And I'd be more than glad, and I look forward to the future when I could sit down and explain to them what my vision is and what I brought back from the Pueblo of Laguna and how it changed me. And through the very definition, I can't change back.
Superintendent, you'll be in charge of, you said, the police academy, the reform process with the Department of Justice, the disciplinary office process for officers, and Chief Medina will be in charge of kind of the day-to-day. Aren't you literally being set up for a good cop, bad cop situation here?
I don't think we're set up for that situation if we don't allow that to happen. We understand where we're going and the responsibilities, but I think it allows Chief Medina, and he's mentioned this several times, to where he can be out in the street and stay on top of the operational side of things, investigations and field services, and allow me to be that person that maintains the relationship with the Department of Justice and the training academy, as well as the internal affairs. That is a big load off Chief Medina's plate. And I'm looking forward to that challenge, and I'm confident that we'll be able to go in and make the necessary changes and update. But people also need to understand, though, this is not going to happen overnight. We didn't get here overnight, and it's definitely not going to happen overnight. But we're going to give it an honest effort.
Well, it's been more than 6 years now of the Department of Justice consent decree, and the most recent review from the monitor, James Ginger, was pretty bad. It was scathing. It led to an additional layer of outside oversight of the department. What is it going to take to make the changes in that consent decree once and for all?
To make sure we're following the suggestions and the policies, the updates that need to be updated. As I indicated, this has been the first week, and I'm getting diving deeply involved in this thing. And so I think if you ask me that same question in about 30 days, I can give you more of a definitive answer. I'm visiting all of my respective responsibilities in the Internal Affairs Unit and meeting with the commanders, training, and we need to sit down and do some more dissecting of those departments, meeting with the commanders and talking to individual officers, as well as the report that came back from the Justice Department, so we can go in and see the places we need to make those necessary changes.
Mm-hmm. Chief Medina, you know, folks have pointed out that you've been involved in at least 2 high-profile shootings, as well as the scandal at the Laguna Pueblo Detention Center, where a corrections officer was accused of raping an inmate on your watch. How do those experiences change your thoughts about the need to reform APD and how to go about it?
You know, honestly, the Pueblo Laguna incident shows me how an individual could take a set of circumstances and use it to their benefit. The Pueblo Laguna, there were several versions of the complaint that was actually filed. The first version didn't name me as being responsible for anything. It actually named the previous warden. I can't get into much detail because that lawsuit was settled, that included the Department of Interior, the Pueblo of Laguna, and others. And the file was sealed and nobody can discuss it. But there's a lot more to that case than meets the eye. But I will say this, that's not related to the lawsuit. That facility had passed all of its inspections by the Bureau of Indian Affairs and had met all its requirements in its yearly assessments, and no issues were identified within that system. The warden had recently just been terminated, and I was only in acting capacity while they found a new warden. So in terms of the other incidents, I think those other incidents are great in terms of me being able to make differences and see what needs to occur with the Albuquerque Police Department. And it goes in several levels of why I'm helpful to be to have seen the culture and the training and the tactics that we used and how it needs to advance. First of all, my officer involved shooting was nearly 20 years ago. And I see how tactics over the next even 10 years changed. And you see how there's tactics have gotten better. When my first officer involved shooting that I was involved in, we didn't think of utilizing CIT. It wasn't a priority. There was no such thing as de-escalation. And having those things today, I look back how those things could have been a whole different outcome could have occurred. Even the Kenneth Ellis shooting, I was on scene, and at the time, supervisors were very active and involved in scenes. I had arrived for a certain function, but the DOJ process years later brought us other key aspects that could have helped us there that I recognize, such as de-escalation. Could you imagine had we had people trained in de-escalation for that shooting, but it was pre-DOJ? Could you imagine if we would have had ECIT officers at that time and been mandated to dispatch them? So it helps me really understand the past from where we weren't a great agency and we had mistakes to now the importance of having those things in this environment so we could have more peaceful and better resolution.
Well, let me ask you this. The Monitor says we've made improvements in terms of training and policy changes. But 20 years after that first situation, we are still stuck on implementing that training and change in the department and changing the culture in the department. So how are you going to do that?
And I think that comes down to ensuring that from the top, it's viewed what is important. And I think that we have to look at the past, not just in terms of where we failed that DOJ has identified and that's part of the settlement agreement and we're being graded on. But we also have to change the past in the other areas that we struggled and make sure that all areas are moving forward. And one of the programs that I've started is our ambassador program. And this goes back to me even reaching out to members from the Black community after the riots when I took over in the fall. And that has become a very successful relationship. It's not a meeting anymore, it's a relationship. We're working projects together. So we have to move forward in ensuring that everybody in Albuquerque knows that we want to work together and we want to create trust. That's going to reduce friction. And when friction is reduced, the aspects that are involved with community engagement and our officers functioning in the community are going to improve, which is going to lead to more positive police interactions, which is going to help us start meeting the confines of the settlement agreement. As for culture change, we have to start rewarding the proper behavior. In 2018, I worked with CNM to start a process outside of militaristic style training of our academy. And now we have an educational based process that we're working with CNM, which is very different. And there's a lot of officers who criticize it and do not like that process. But I feel that is the way, I know that is the way that we move forward in changing culture. We cannot train soldiers. We need to train community guardians. And the other thing is recognizing and rewarding the correct behavior.
So what are your biggest challenges in getting to where you want to go, Chief?
You know, the biggest challenge to start off with was time. There's only so much time I have in a day. When the mayor presented this concept to me, I accepted and supported it immediately because I saw that it would carve out time for me to be a typical police chief and what typical chiefs do across this nation that are successful, and that is focus on the operations of the department and making the community safe. My biggest challenge is I need to bring together the criminal justice system, as I stated earlier. This effect of having to arrest individuals over and over reaches into all parts of where we're struggling as a department. We have high crime rates, which make more calls for service. Officers don't have dedicated time to go have community engagement, build relationships. Rearresting violent individuals over and over again increase the likelihood of force being used. And I personally have seen cases that have come through where our officers have used force on an individual up to 3-4 times because they keep getting released from custody. So we have to work with the criminal justice system to make sure that when we do release people, we release them successful and with the resources needed so that they don't reoffend. And in that, I mean, we are releasing a lot of individuals with substance abuse problems. And they still have that substance abuse problem, and they're going to continue the lifestyle and the trend, which is committing crimes, which are going to lead to these problems. I think one huge solution is we all work together and we ensure that when we release somebody pending their trial dates, that we make sure they're giving every single resource and are monitored to ensure that they're getting the substance abuse counseling that they need to stay out of trouble and not to have interactions with law enforcement.
Superintendent Stanley, what made you want to take this job, and what is it that you most want to achieve in it?
Well, I thought it was exciting. It's here in my backyard. I don't have to move again. But I think it's challenging if I can leave part of a legacy as an impact on making change and being successful with the Albuquerque Police Department here. I think it goes a long ways. I think I still have a lot to give in the law enforcement arena. And I think this was a great move to see all the things that we've had over the years and the things that I can help improve on. And I would love to be able to contribute. So one day I can tell my grandchildren, you know, I helped make that change for the Albuquerque Police Department. The men and women that used to work for me in different agencies, did nothing but call and praise and congratulate me on knowing that I am the person that can help make that change because I'm a team player. I believe in being positive. I believe in the professionalism and the integrity of all the men and women, and that is my style. So I'm excited about it. I'm excited about the challenge. As the media have asked and inquired how we're going to do this, you know, I commend the mayor and his staff for thinking outside of the box and creating this superintendent position and allowing the chief to do those operational things. So I think we're going to set become a role model for other departments. Albuquerque is going to be on the map, and other large departments are going to say, hey, you know what? We need to take a page out of their book. So we need to be able to be on the front burner so we can set that tempo for other law enforcement officers.
Thank you both very much for talking with me today about this.
Thank you. You have a good day.